Hey everybody, this is Angela and you're listening to 5 Picks and a Chick featuring El Gato. This is a show that gives you 5 NFL picks for people who love football and friendly wagering. Today we will have a silent guest picker. He goes by the initials JH.
Wow, JH, that sounds intimidating already.
Yep.
I see the pick he has out on the board, and we'll see what happens. But welcome aboard, JH, whoever you are. Welcome aboard. I'm glad you finally decided to get out there and get a pick out there for the public to look at and analyze and make a decision on it. Appreciate it.
Last week, I went 2-3. My season record is 31 wins, 25 losses, and 4 pushes or ties. My percentage is at 55%. But you definitely trend upwards, which is good. You had 4 wins last week and 1 loss. Your record is 29 wins, 27 losses, and 4 ties. Your percentage is at 52%. So we're still above that 500 mark. So that's not bad.
Yeah, I think we did pretty well. I was happy with the picks that turned out. But, I started thinking, just to go off of just on a quick tangent here. Sure. Before we get onto our picks, I started thinking, this NFL, the NFL is a league of tremendous athletes on both sides of the ball. Even the bench players, when they come on the field, are just not the quality, but they're very good players. And the margin of error in picking these games against the spread or even the over-under is so small, is so narrow. And I started reflecting on the season. And a lot of these games that can go either way are usually a 1 or 2 possession game in the fourth quarter. Sometimes it even comes down to a team maybe early on in the game, second quarter when you go back and think, or third quarter, where they're knocked out of field position on a penalty and they can't cover it on a field goal, on a field goal attempt that they didn't get to make because of a penalty. That's how razor sharp these margins are. So for us to be above that 50 line, I think we've done a good job this year so far.
Yeah, I agree. And you're talking about that. It could come down to last play, or a penalty moves the ball back, or even like the Texans game, the field goal kick that hit the post. That changed that game and the spread by just inches. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, think about that.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep. Well, my first pick is going to be the Chargers -6 at New England. I normally don't like to lay this many points on the road for a team, but I think this is a good spot for the Chargers to bounce back after some really tough losses against some really good teams. The Patriots are only averaging 14 points a game this year and are 1-5 at home. Chargers need a win to get back in the playoff race, so I am picking the Chargers -6. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, you make some good points on the Chargers. They really were competitive against the Ravens the other night, up until the last, seems like the minute, the last minute of the game, where the Chargers kind of loaded up on, the Ravens loaded up on some points. But they played really well. They have played well. Just have lost some close games. This -6 is a good spot for them. They do need to get on their winning ways again. I think they have the quarterback to do that. But what I'm going to do on this one, Angela, is I'm going to take the under at 40.5. You raise a good point that you just mentioned here with the Patriots, not even or scoring right at about 14 a game. I had them at below 17 a game. So if it's at 14, that's really alarming as far as trying to get over the 40.5 in this particular game. I also did a little deeper dive on, the weather in the Northeast, and it's going to be a sloppy day. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be windy. The defense, with the Chargers defense not being as good defending the run, and with the Patriots quarterback issues, I think the Patriots are going to lean on the run. That's going to limit possessions on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to go with the under on this one at 40.5. But you do raise a good point at -6. We'll see what happens, but I'll take the under.
Yeah, I kind of like that as well. So we will see how that goes. My second pick is going to be Cleveland getting 3.5 at the Rams. Cleveland had their 4-game winning streak snapped last week, but that was against a pretty hot Bronco team. They're definitely on a roll. They do have some injuries on both sides of the ball. I think that their defense will prove to be enough against an inconsistent Ram team. I believe for Cleveland, the quarterback is going to be Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But I'm still going with Cleveland on this one, getting the points. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll take defense on this game. They ran into a buzzsaw on the Denver team last week. That was a tough game for the Browns, but at plus 3.5, and the Rams kind of inconsistent. They really haven't faced. At least I went back maybe 3 or 4 or 5 games. The Rams really haven't faced an elite defense, and that's what Cleveland has. And I think they're going to lean on that and rely on that, similar to what the Steelers do. Offensively they're challenged, but they rely on the defense. I think the Browns are going to do the same here. Plus 3.5. That's a full touchdown, I think. So with that in mind, I'll take the Browns at plus 3.5. That's a good spot for them, I think.
Well, the silent guest picker picked the Commanders getting 9.5 versus Miami. What do you think about this pick?
Well, you know what? I've learned my lesson the hard way several times this year, going with the minus high points. And lately, I've been getting back to my senses when I make friendly wagers on the side and going with the team that gets especially this high of points, 9.5. I want to go with Washington at plus 9.5. I know defensively Washington has been a mess this year. Even offensively, that quarterback for Washington, runs for his life. He gets killed practically almost every game. They couldn't do anything against the Cowboys last week. Thanksgiving. Miami, however, I've looked at their schedule. They seem to struggle on the road. And I think they're playing at Washington. Am I correct on this one, Angela?
They are at Washington at home, the Commanders. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, Miami appears to struggle when they are on the road. It seems like their scores against their opponents are a little tighter than when they are at home. So 9.5 is a big number. That's 2 full scores. I'm going to go with Washington, even with their struggles this year. I'll go with Washington on this one.
I, as well, will go with the Commanders getting 9.5. Like you said, that's a lot of points. The Commanders have actually been holding their own against some of the better teams in the NFL until they ran into a juggernaut in the Cowboys last week, which I was happy about. They come back home to face the Dolphins, who are really not that good on the road. You mentioned the Commanders' defense, and I do believe they went through a defense coaching change. So I think maybe, how when there's coaching changes, it kind of pumps up either the entire team when it's a head coach or, when it's a defensive coach. I think that might have a little bit of an effect on this game. The Dolphins' road win against the Jets last week was their first road win since week 2. Can you believe that? Since week 2, that was their first win on the road. Another note to this game is Sam Howell leads the league in passing yards and can keep this game close with his arm. So go Commanders.
Good points. Love it.
Do you have a 4th and 5th pick for us, El Gato?
Yeah, I have a couple of picks. My first one is going to be the Lions at Saints. The Lions really started really well, surprise team of the NFL, I thought, at least in the NFC, to that point, really cruising along. Then they hit a few bumps in the road lately. They've been in some really tight games. Example, against the Bears, I believe it was Thanksgiving Day. They miraculously pulled that game off. Last week, struggled quite a bit. This week, they're going to be playing the Saints, who have issues scoring the ball. And what I mean by that is scoring touchdowns. And, the Saints have some issues on the wide receiver side. They're going to be either -2 or 3 of their leading wide receivers. with this, with the Saints, the struggles offensively, and the Lions trying to, retake control of that NFC North, with the Packers coming along, Vikings right behind them, they've got to perform. I think this is a good spot for them to, continue the trend, at least try to trend upward. And with the Saints struggles, I'll take the Lions at -4. I think it's a kind of a semi-high number. It's a full touchdown, but I think the Lions can cover it.
Well, I think you're going to understand why I'm going with this pick. I'm going New Orleans.
Okay.
Up until a few weeks ago, the Lions looked like they were on their way to being one of the elite teams, but they are starting to fade just a little bit. And that will carry over into this road game against the Saints, who play better at home. I'm going with the Saints, and I met some new friends yesterday, and they convinced me to go with the Saints in this game. So that's who I am going with, and I'll go with the Saints in this one.
Yeah, some good points. You're right about these Lions. They started out well. They were really whipping everyone defensively, but their pass on the defensive side, their pass defense is really struggling. So any kind of action the Saints can put through the air and keeps drives going, sustained drives, is going to be an issue. But you raise good points.
All right, Elgato, do you have a fifth pick for us?
I do, and this is a game I'm really gonna watch this game. I'm really interested on the outcome, because it's two teams that are really hard-nosed on the defensive side, and I'm speaking about the Denver Broncos and the Texans. Most recently, the Denver Broncos, they were the laughing stock, so to speak, earlier in the year, where they were just a hot mess. They couldn't do anything right on the offensive side or defensive side. I think Miami put a 70 spot on them earlier in the year, so that was quite embarrassing. But lately, I think they're starting to come around to their new coach and have a good philosophy, both offensively and defensively. I think that the Broncos offensively play like a semi-slow West Coast style offense. They run the ball. They want to control the line of scrimmage. They throw Russell Wilson throws those short 5-yard passes, and when they're completed, it basically turns out to be a good run, so to speak. 5-yard run. And like I said, they've been playing some good football. The Texans, of course, have C.J. Stroud, Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. They kind of veered off of their run game last week, which cost them, I thought. And if they can stay running the ball and give C.J. that advantage on the play action, I think that would set them right. But on this one, I'm going to go with the under at 47.5. Getting to my point here, I think both teams are going to go run heavy, which is going to limit possessions. And if that's the case, limiting possessions, you know how it goes in the NFL. Clock keeps going, and before you know it, quarters pass by. And at 47.5 on the under, I'll take that one. I'm expecting like a 20-17, 20-23 game. And of course, both teams the last 6 or 7 games have gone combined under 46. So I'm going to try to stay with that trend.
All right. Well, I'm actually going to go with the side on this one, taking Houston -3.5. This game has a lot of playoff implications to it. So Houston is coming off a heartbreaking loss last week against a division rival. They have another team coming into town that has been playing very well in the Denver Broncos. But the Broncos have been doing most of their damage at home, and this is a road game for them. This will be a tough test for the Broncos against a confident quarterback in Stroud, who is playing very, very well. I think if Stroud can protect the ball, because we do know Broncos are, at least recent, causing turnovers. So I think if Stroud can protect the ball, the Houstons can cover that 3.5.
It's going to be a really interesting game. Like I said, I want to pay really close attention to it. Like you say, playoff implications moving forward. The season. Last 6 or 7 games of the season. Here we are, and it's going to be very exciting. Well, this season is moving along. At a very fast pace. We had some great games last week. that Eagles Bills game last week, I couldn't take my eyeballs off that game. There was so much drama, so many big plays, a few unusual plays, some penalties that weren't called, some that were, going both ways, rainy conditions, windy conditions, and yet both teams performed at a high level offensively, scoring the ball. And I hope this week and for the remainder of the season, we get at least a couple of games each week just like that one. I could watch that one again if I had a chance.
Yeah, it was a great game. I had the Bills getting the points. When Jalen Hurts threw that ball into the end zone and they caught it for a touchdown, I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to cover. And then I forgot. In the NFL, they don't have to kick the extra point. So I covered. It was crazy. It was an exciting game.
That overtime, they don't kick it. So
yeah.
Luckily for the cover, but for overall, I think for the fans, it was, and for the guys calling the game, and they were just as excited as probably the fans who were watching on both sides. So yeah, it was a great game for sure. Even it was just like the Alabama game the day before. Oh my God,
yeah.
That was. What was the percent? It was less than 0.5% that play being executed, and that was one of the craziest choke jobs, one of the craziest plays I've seen ever.
Saban said that they actually practiced that play. So
of course he did.
Yeah. He said they were ready for it. They were ready for it.
I think Saban doesn't leave anything to chance. I bet he goes over every situation. So
yeah,
they executed the play. Good
and that's
them.
exactly right. They practice it and they executed it in a high pressure point in the game. So that was great.
No doubt.
It was great. Well, El Gato, I am going to enjoy watching the Cowboys play tonight in a sports book. So I'm getting ready for that.
Interesting. You picked the Saints because you've spoken to some people, and now you're in a sports book. Where are you, Angela?
Well, I'll leave that up to your
imagination.
I'll leave that up to your imagination.
All right. Very good. Good shot.
Well, if you have made it to this point in our podcast, we just want to thank you for listening to 5 Picks and a Chick. Be sure to tell your friends about us. Also hit the subscribe and like button in our YouTube channel at 5 Picks and a Chick. You can also find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts or ask Alexa to play 5 Picks and a Chick. Thank you to our silent guest picker, JH, for giving us a pick today. Also, thank you to El Gato for being part of 5 Picks and a Chick. 1, 2, 3, break.
Break. That's a wrap. Thank you.